Welcome to Let's Get Curious, the podcast for women and mothers seeking connection, support, and inspiration. We are friends, mothers, and therapists. Lori, a physical therapist, and Dorothy, a speech and language therapist. Together, we share our personal stories, including IVF, birth experiences, and navigating children's learning difficulties. Through our discussions, we uncover profound lessons for personal growth. Join us on this journey of curiosity, compassion, and empowerment. Welcome to Let's Get Curious.
And we are back with another episode of Let's Get Curious. And today we have Missy Broxton, who is an occupational therapist at Building Blocks Pediatric Therapies in Santa Fe, New Mexico, with 28 years of experience. She found her passion working with the pediatric population in a sensory integration clinic in 2008. She previously co-owned an outpatient pediatric clinic for 13 years in Connecticut. Since that time, Missy has completed extensive coursework to expand her knowledge and expertise in order to address the whole child and the family dynamic. Since her move to New Mexico from Connecticut in 2021, she has established a solid reputation within the special needs community, private preschools, and charter schools. She has completed numerous presentations within the community to share her knowledge of sensory processing, fine motor skills, handwriting, use of visual schedules in order to maximize children's functioning within the school environment. Quote, "I do not treat just the whole child. I work with the entire family and any providers or school personnel that engages with the child. My approach to therapy is called a bottom-up approach, which first addresses the child's neurological and sensory needs. This builds a solid foundation of strength, which maximizes the child's ability to succeed in all aspects of daily life, including the home, school, and community." Welcome, Missy.
Welcome, Missy. Oh, there's so much yumminess in there.
Oh my God, there's so many things, so many.
Yes.
So Lori, do you know that Missy and I have known one another since kindergarten?
No, I did not know that it went back like that long.
It goes back. It goes back.
Kindergarten
So yeah,
all the way through high school.
Love
yes.
it.
And I can remember, Missy, and this actually came up in a previous podcast, believe it or not. But I can remember the day in high school that you told me you were going to be an OT.
No way.
But yeah, I remember that moment. And look at us now.
Crazy. I know. It's so ridiculous. Life is so crazy.
It is crazy. And here we are. We took our paths and we both ended up in the rehab world.
Circle.
And we came back. I just got chills. We came back full circle, and here you are sharing all your wonderful knowledge with us. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. So we are going to get into the pyramid of learning and kind of what we were talking about before in your intro about the bottom-up approach and how that's so critical for kids to function in every aspect of their life,
yes,
including learning.
But actually anybody, to be honest. I look back at the struggles that I had in school and academically, and then through my OT career, and I'm like, oh, I have that hole missing, and that hole's missing, and that hole's missing, and no wonder why I have to work 10 times harder to get the same goal as everybody else is doing. So yeah.
Wow. Makes sense. Lori's nodding. Like,
oh yeah. I mean, like I say, we all have something. We all have something. There's something missing in our pyramid, right? I've learned a lot with having a child with ADHD and sensory issues, and so it's been this deep dive for myself down this path. And to your point, Missy, that's what it is. It's like, oh my gosh, and that's me, and that's why. Because I was the same way. I always wondered why things took me so much longer in school, or I could study, but something wasn't going in, or whatever be the situation. So I'm super excited to have you on today, because obviously there's a personal connection for both Dorothy and I in this. And then with us also being therapists, we go out and we share our stories with people, and we're very observant, right? That's what we are trained as therapists, to observe. So, I mean, when I'm out in public, or I'm with friends with kids, it's like, the bells and whistles are always going off in my
Yeah.
head, or just watching kids at school. And it's like, oh my goodness, I wonder if they know this. And I wonder if the parents know that.
Yes.
So this is why we have this podcast, to be able to talk to the masses and just get people curious, and to teach them just to look through a different lens of what that behavior of your child could be telling you, or words that they're using, and like how to interpret this stuff to help them be better, to just be better in the sense of just to their abilities. Because we know how much this plays on confidence.
Oh, absolutely.
As
absolutely.
well. Yeah. So again, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
So before we dive in, I always like to kind of bring things back to the basics, because we don't know who our audience is and what their background is and what they know or don't know. So I like to kind of set the foundation, which is perfect for this podcast, right? Let's start at the bottom. So maybe you could just explain what occupational therapy is, why a child or an adult might need your services, and what you provide.
So in the world of occupational therapy, there's so many different areas that you can go into for expertise. Most people know about their nursing home one, and most people know about maybe subacute care, where you pulled out your shoulder and tore ligaments, and then you had to go to therapy for re-strengthening. Pediatrics is a little bit different. Pediatric OT, often we get referrals for developmental delay, which we can address that in early intervention, but also in the outpatient clinic. We'll get they call it behavior, but it's really the sensory aspect of things. But the only way to see sensory is through behavior. So the big ballpark on how I explain it is, if your child is having an area of life where it's really hard to function, OT can help. Kind of across, it's really bizarre to say, but kind of across the board. So behavior, attention, potty training, handwriting, we do bike riding, visual perceptual, or I really don't know what's happening, I would say call an OT.
I love that. Okay.
I know it's ballpark, but the world of pediatric OT is ballpark.
No, that makes sense. And can you tell us, because I know there's a huge difference between OT services in the school versus OT services in a clinic? Because I know a lot of times parents are like, well, my child receives OT at school, therefore he doesn't need to go to a clinic. Right. And I know that that's not the case. It's because it's very different.
So OTs in school is all about how are certain things impacting the child's ability to meet the academic demands. So typically it's handwriting, scissors, really that's usually it. But then when I get called in to do a school eval, and when we go over the pyramid, you'll see there's so many underlying issues in a more medical-based reasoning that I can address in a school.
You can or cannot?
I cannot.
You're not allowed to.
No. In most public schools, they often don't address sensory.
Right.
So it's kind of, when I work with a kid in a school, I'm working on, letter formations, orientation of their writing on the writing line. And I'm just trying to give strategies to improve. I'm not going to make foundational changes in their functioning that I would in an outpatient clinic. And
got it.
30 minutes of OT, an hour of OT a week in the schools, you're not going to really make much change. I feel like it's more of a Band-Aid to get them through. But when we go through the period of learning, you'll see where the gaps come. So they don't have a strong foundation of skills to build their academic skills upon.
Yeah, let's do that now. I think it's a perfect time.
Okay. Well, and I have a quick, yes, absolutely. And I have a quick question for you, Missy, so when you're saying that you can't do it in the school, is it because of just, again, how you just described how the setup is, it's like small increments, 30 minutes a week, or is it because, in a sense, the school doesn't accept that angle or have the tools to work on the sensory piece that you're mentioning? Like where is the breakdown when it comes to the actual educational
It
OT
could be
happening?
a lot of things. So it could be
Okay.
the school system to say, we don't address sensory as across the board. It
Okay.
could be therapist knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So the stuff like the sensory and primitive reflexes, things that we're going to talk today, you don't really get that in OT school. It's more
Mm-hmm.
so you get it outside CEU learning. So I will say to parents, okay, if it's a sensory issue and they're highly distracted or noise bothers them or touch bothers them, you can ask that therapist, what training have you done in sensory integration that can do this beyond school? And that's
Okay.
really important. Even in an outpatient clinic, parents can ask that. What training do you have?
Mm-hmm.
Have you done primitive reflexes? Do you address them? Have you done sensory training? Do you address it?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So it's kind of like multifactorial,
It
really, is
really
the
is.
answer to that question. Okay. I didn't know if it was just something with the system per se, being like, nope, this is just the lane I want you to stay in.
Well,
Because we see that a lot.
a little bit of both. Oh, that as well, I should say, but also space too. Like often we're treating at the end of a hallway or in
Mm-hmm.
an empty closet, and you don't really have the space to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, that makes sense. Wonderful. So I will pull up then for us the pyramid that we are talking about that you will walk us through, Missy.
Okay, so this is my Bible. I take a picture of this into my initial evaluation and to show parents, okay, you've come in for concern on the top of the pyramid, which is writing, or you came in with a concern under life management of behavior, self-control, and social skills. And then I'll explain, okay, we have to go all the way down here at the bottom
Mm-hmm.
of the pyramid to figure out where the gaps are in development and to build that foundation so that they are able to learn and access new skills. So
Mm-hmm.
the bottom of the pyramid is prenatal and nutritional considerations. Prenatal things that I ask in an evaluation is all about, let's talk about your pregnancy. What was your stress level? What did you have any bed rest? I want to know if it was a C-section versus vaginal birth. I also want to know, were there forceps? Was there any assist to help with the delivery if it was a vaginal birth? Then I want to know NICU. Were they in the NICU? How long were they in the NICU? Did they come home with oxygen? All that information is the first step of their primitive reflexes and sensory functioning. So primitive reflexes is our next step up. So primitive reflexes it's pre-coding in our brain that we're all born with. So in utero, we have our first reflex, and it's called fear paralysis. And the function of that reflex is to set the child's safe versus unsafe setting reflex. So each reflex has a job. When that job is completed, then that reflex functioning goes back into our brain. I call it the neurological attic, if we need it. So if I were to have a TBI or a spinal cord injury, I could go back and use my reflexes to teach me how to walk again, how to crawl again, all those things. The reflexes, they all have a purpose. They make us a skilled human. So there's reflexes that are active that helps the child get ready to crawl. Then the child crawls, that reflex goes back into our brain and stays inactive. Majority, if not all of my clients have reflexes still active. I learned about reflexes 15 years ago. I personally had a lot of the reflexes still active, but that it opened the door to me like, oh my God, this is why I struggle so much. This is why I was so deathly shy in elementary school and middle school. It just made sense. So I have found in my practice that if I don't address the reflexes, I can only take sensory processing changes so far.
Wow.
Then I kind of hit like a dead end. And then I see regression in the sensory piece.
So you right off the bat start with reflexes
Mhm.
and do nothing above the pyramid until the reflexes are integrated?
Right. So I will test all the
Got it.
reflexes. And then just me seeing the child once a week will not change reflex function. Maybe in like years, but
Yeah.
I immediately, day one of the evaluation, send parents home with one of the exercises to start with the very first reflex they have active. And it's done, like, you got to do it every day. Maybe even if you just get first thing in the morning and right at bedtime, get it done, you're going to see changes. So I said before that fear paralysis is our very first reflex. When I started doing the reflex work, I did it for 4 days. And so that's 8 exercises, 8 times I did the exercise. And one of my coworkers said at the end of the day, "Oh, did you not have your social skills group?" I go, "No, I did." And they said, "We didn't hear you one bit." I'm like, "What do you mean you didn't hear me?" Usually they heard me say, "Hey, calm down, relax, pull it back together," because I was taking on the energy of all the dysregulated 10 to 12-year-old ADHD boys, taking their energy in, which dysregulated me.
Wow.
So I've noticed that if I get super sick or if I have a big traumatic event, I will still go back and do my fear paralysis work. And that's another important factor to talk about is if I were to address all my reflexes and they were all integrated, trauma, stress, sickness can reactivate those reflexes.
Wow. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So then on top of the reflexes is really our sensory functioning. This chart is missing. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 senses listed on here. We actually have 8 sensory systems. So we have the 5 that we all know: taste, smell, hearing, sight, and touch. But within sensory OT, there's 3 really important specialty senses. They're proprioceptive. So that comes from your joints and ligaments, and it sends a message up to our brain, sensory strip in our brain, and says, "Here's your arm, here's your leg." It maps out where you are in space.
Okay.
And then the next one is vestibular. It's located in our middle ear, and there are 2 pieces, so it's a bilateral system, which means every time we move our head or rotate our head in any way, it stimulates that system to say, "Hey, you're moving." And then the last one is interoception. That comes from our internal senses. I got to pee. I got to poop. I'm hungry. I have a pain. It's messages that go from an organ all the way up to our brain, and our brain has to recognize it. So typically the interoception is the last sensory system to come on board.
Does that system then, Missy, also have to do with picky eaters or kids with, like, say, low appetite? Would we see deficits there?
We could. I think we see it both ways. So we see kids that don't recognize they're hungry, and we see kids that don't recognize that they're full.
Okay.
So it's all about, and this is the tricky part with the sensory system, it's all about something happens to our body, either from our organ or from the outside of the external environment. Is that sensory signal strong enough to get all the way up to our brain for our brain to recognize it, then our brain to interpret it and appropriately respond? Does that make sense?
Yes.
And as a therapist, I have no idea where it breaks down and where the dysfunction happens. The only way that we see a sensory issue is through observation. So often when kids have sensory issues, they're called behavior. because that's the only way to identify it.
So can you give us a little bit more? I'm sure there's so many people listening that can relate to this, but can you dive into that a little bit more? So what behaviors would we see
Okay.
if someone
You
has
want me to
issues
say a
with
behavior
sensory?
and then how I interpret it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So I'll give you one. So for example, a kid is, I don't know if would this be in there? Yeah. Um, gets into the classroom and immediately runs out the door to the playground. Elopement. Just takes off.
So I would have to know. So I do like an ABC data. Okay. So the behavior is eloping. What happened right before? Did someone bump into them? Was there a ton of movement in the room? Was there a ton of noise in the room? What was the subject is another one. And then was there a teacher change? So that's the A, that's the antecedent. B, his behavior was eloping. And then C, I don't C means consequence, but I don't mean you need to have a timeout. I mean, okay, let's try some heavy work input and see what happens. See if that helps regulate. So there's never one answer. But whenever you have a challenge or a behavior that you see as a parent, the first thing I suggest, sit back and tap into the environment. You know, so I have auditory sensitivity. And of course, I don't treat myself because I'm too busy treating everybody else. But I've just learned to work with it. You might see me if I'm in an office and it's super dead quiet and there's a clock ticking. You might see me go, what is like totally distracted because a repetitive ticking noise pisses me off. It's like a personal assault on myself.
Yeah. Me too.
It's unbelievable. It is so ridiculous. But so I have headphones with a repetitive song that I know all the words or a green noise so that I can focus.
Got it.
Yeah.
So how do you address auditory then? Like if you were to work on yourself, how would you?
There's a lot of therapeutic type listening music. So often when we have a noise sensitivity, the organs in our middle ear that attach the three organs, which I never remember their names, they're tight, they're in spasm. So every noise comes in as harsh. So there's therapeutic music that's out there and different therapeutic programs. I have a favorite. There's some I don't like at all. Is the music is set up so that it literally exercises those muscles in that attaches all the processing organs and they relax so that the noise isn't so it doesn't come in as harsh. I've done a program in full and it was night and day functioning. But then, life happens and my sensory sensitivities came back tenfold.
Got it.
And that's the tricky part in sensory. It's that up and down, ebb and flow. Kids have growth spurts. Neurotypical kids get klutzy and trippy all the time, right? They fall and trip and bump into things until that strip in their brain figures out, okay, my map is now this, my body map is this, and I know where my body is in space. Our kids often get regression in behavior because now I feel weird. Something's not right. So they revert to old behavior. So parents were like, we have an uptick. I'm like, okay, first of all, let's look. Are they eating more? Are their clothes small? Are they constipated? Usually are the three things that I go to.
Got it.
Old behavior starts ticking up again.
Yeah.
Anything else about sensory? Because again, I can go on forever.
I think it's a good overview. And again, I think sensory could be a whole other podcast. There's just so much information.
It really is. It really
is. It's going, but I do feel like at some point we should talk about that more.
Okay. So those two lines in the bottom of the pyramid are, to me, makes the strong foundation.
Okay.
If you have holes in there, it's like building a house on a shoddy foundation. Something's eventually going to give and collapse. So above that foundation is really when we start skill. So now we're looking at motor. The motor column has crawling, motor planning, rolling over, control of the mouth and tongue, sitting up and walking. There's a lot more to that, but those are the basics. In my frame of reference, in my world, crawling is essential to development. And that reciprocal crawl, hands and knees, not the butt scoot, not the frog jump, but babies should army crawl and then get up on their hands and knees. If I'm working with a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old that didn't crawl, we're going back and crawling. And we're going to crawl over, not just on the ground. I'm not going to say, okay, you have to go to the bathroom, crawl to the toilet. No, we do obstacle courses that has tunnels and big pillows and air things that they have to crawl over. So they're working through that coordination. Motor planning is the ability to have an idea in your brain and get your body to do it. So if a child has a reflex that's still active and they're trying to do something novel, they're going to struggle because their body's going to do an active movement. So crawling and there's a reflex called ATNR. And what it does is it teaches infants that your eyes and hands go together. So I'm just going to back up a little bit. So with an infant, you turn their head, they do this with this arm straight, right? And I go this way and this arm straight. So if they have an active ATNR and they try to crawl, they're going to collapse and fall. So they're going to get frustrated, but I will find a way to help them so that they're successful. So it's kind of like that just right challenge. I'm going to find an activity that they're going to kill it and be so successful, but then we're also going to work on an activity that's a little bit hard for them. So that's that motor planning piece.
Got it.
Rolling over and control of the mouth and tongue are super important because you need to be able to segment your body. So I need to have my upper body move different than my lower body. I need to have my left side work different than my right side and do different things. Just a quick point of interest. Your tongue and mouth are the only things you can't see. You fully rely on proprioceptive input, that body awareness input, unless you're looking in the mirror. So kids who have dripping and drooling mouth stuffers, they typically have a low receptive system. Does that make sense?
It does. So how do you fix that?
So that's where you go back to the body awareness. Proprioceptive comes from our joints. So anything they do active. I will have pillow fights with kids. I will do bulldozers. So if I have a therapy ball and they're sitting up, I'm going to squish them and knock them down. Hippity hops, anything they can actively do to move their body. One of the things that I have recently found is the vibration plates. Those are huge. Those are so effective in that body awareness piece. You actually I can see with kids that the input maybe stops like at their chest and none of this is moving. And then as the time goes by, you can start seeing this is moving. The award-winning movement that I want to see if someone's sitting on a vibration plate that I feel has a low registration of proprio input is when they stick their fingers in their ears. Because that means that input finally got to their ears, and that is a bizarre feeling.
Interesting.
And you can go hands and knees on a vibration plate. You can stand, you can sit. They can lie on their stomach. I kind of just follow their lead. Often kids will jump on, jump off. And I'll be like, oh, hold on. I'll try to come up with an activity on the wall or on the window to keep them on that plate more so that their body benefits from the input.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yep, got it. Yeah, we have one of those. We love it.
Oh, I love it.
My kiddo wants to crank it up to like the highest setting.
Oh, listen.
He's like, oh, I want to be 999. I'm like, my gosh, I can handle 100 and I'm wanting to vomit and I know what you're going to say.
No,
I know I need work in that area, Missy.
Every time I go on it, I literally have to go to the bathroom afterwards.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just want to vomit. I feel so dizzy and I just feel like it's like I'm on a boat.
No, that's a whole nother issue.
I know. Okay, we'll talk later.
So just all that movement, that body movement, body coordination, I guess I would say. So then I take those 3 levels of the pyramid and then I start looking at a bit more skilled. So then I look at auditory tracking. They hear a noise. Can they find where they heard it? When they're reach for an object, are they on it? Are they reaching over? Are they short? Are they knocking it down because they don't have decent eye-hand coordination? And then the speech development comes in. And then this is a soapbox issue of mine, ocular motor control of the eyes. It's called functional vision. It is something that is greatly missed in our kids, and it's a huge developmental task that is essential for learning and reading. Can I talk a little bit more about that?
Yep.
Okay, so functional vision is when our eyes see something, our eyes each get a picture. Both of those pictures goes in the back of the brain where it processes vision, and that job of the back of the brain is to form a picture. Our brain is so skilled at finding the most efficient way. It will work really hard to put that picture together, but if one eye's not working effectively, it stops that input. So let me explain this again. Functional vision is depth perception. We need functional vision for reading, for writing, for comprehension, and there's a bunch of skills that go into that. I have a very subtle right lazy eye. When I'm really tired, if you know it, you can see it. So what ends up happening is my brain will try to take both pictures to form one, but eventually it just stops utilizing the vision from this eye. It's not that I see black. I notice that I'm positioning my head that I'm only using one eye.
Wow.
So functionally, it has strongly impacted me in reading and reading comprehension. So there's 3 skills for functional vision that I work with as an OT. One is tracking. By the age of 5, somewhat 6, a child should be able to sit seated, feet on the ground or feet supported, back and butt in the chair. And they should be able to keep their head still and follow this moving pen in all quadrants. Kids will fatigue. They'll start blinking. They might be able to look at the pen and then their eyes go somewhere else, then come back to the pen. That's an automatic response. They can't control that. They might have jerkiness when they cross over their nose, when they cross that midline. They might see this widening because they're trying to compensate for it, but they're working really hard.
Yeah.
Wow. Another one is saccades. So we use saccades and tracking to read a sentence. So you see the word, you track it, you jump to the next word. Tracking is I look here and I look here. If you have an issue and I look, I'm going to look, I might jump not far enough. I might jump over here. So then I have to correct it. So in reading, I mixed up words like he, she, the, we all the time. I also would skip words when I'm reading. So then now I'm like, I don't know what I'm reading because nothing makes sense. Still to this day, when I read, I put my thumb, when I start reading, I put my thumb at the beginning and end of the sentence. And as I'm reading, I move my thumb down so that I know what next line I have to go to.
Wow.
And then the last thing is convergence. It's pulling your eyes in. So back in the day, remember we had those pictures where you're supposed to relax your eyes and then it like 3D.
Yes.
I could never do that ever. So I can't pull in my eyes. This eye, it will start to pull in and then my brain just turns it off and it goes this way. So I get a ton of peripheral input, often why I always drive it so I don't get car sick, because I'm looking here, but I have all this peripheral vision going back fast.
Did you know that when you were a kid?
No.
Did you realize there was an issue? No, you didn't know.
No,
Yeah, of course.
I was one of the special kids at our elementary school that lined up that went to the Colby House for reading.
I remember
Here's the
that's
issue.
the Colby House. Not that you were in the line, but I remember.
They actually called us the special kids. I'm 50 and
Really?
I still remember that. Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
So I was taught all the dyslexic type of strategies. None of that ever worked for me because my foundational skills were off. So
Wow. Fast.
I didn't learn about this till I was 35, 36. So about 15 years ago. When my daughter was in 4th grade, she was in a Catholic school in Enfield, Connecticut, and they started that long narrative reading. In that long narrative reading, you start reading and then you kind of know in your head, oh, if this question, I need to go back to like this part of the passage, right? She couldn't do it. I still can't do it. And she could read beautifully, but she had no idea what she was reading. Like she had no comprehension because she was working so hard just to get her eyes across the paper. Her ability to translate that into a working memory, she couldn't do it.
Wow.
Well, and I want to elaborate there a second too, Missy, where you were saying turning your head to then look and be able to focus. And I think that's something that if there's any teachers listening to this, that's so important because how many times do you hear them like, look at me, why aren't you looking at me? And a lot of times it could be because they physically can't.
Right. I will never say to a kid, look at me when I'm talking to you, because their ability to look you in the face is vision sensory, functional vision. By jumping your eyes to maybe like looking somewhere at the playground or at the chalkboard afar and then coming to you, that skill is called accommodation. If you can't accommodate, your face might look like a Picasso painting to them. Or it's too hard for them to sustain that visual attention in one object. I worked with a kid today at a charter school. She's in 3rd grade. Her visual attention, her ability to just look at my pen was 5 seconds.
Wow.
Oh.
And then you think, how much does that impact her? I was in the classroom with her and she's supposed to copy at the board, look on a page and then write it on her notebook. She couldn't do it. She was behind from the first word, which then I was sitting there helping her, but the class finished and we weren't even halfway done with the worksheet. So some of the things for teachers to look at, kids writing in worksheets, if they're skipping things, skipping math problems, skipping fill-ins, it's probably because their eyes jumped and they didn't see it. The other thing is to look at how kids' heads are positioned. If they're writing, I'm going to see if I can do this. If they're writing and they're down like this writing, can you see me?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm covering this eye with my nose. So I'm really only using this one. So looking at when you put a referral in as a teacher, putting in your observations are really key. Like I see them do this all the time.
Yep. Makes sense.
Yeah. But again, that other knowledge, this knowledge that I'm talking about, I did not learn in school. I learned it because I did all the sensory courses and went to a vision course. I had no idea what that was.
And then you just keep going down the rabbit hole, right?
And
Yeah.
I can't stop.
What else can I learn? Yeah.
Right. So that is the sensory perceptual motor. That's when you're really coordinating. Are all my reflexes in place? Do I have posture control to sit on the table? Can I ignore input that's not important, like my peer who's rustling papers or tapping a pen? Can I block that out because that's not important? And then that's like functioning. So on this, it says neurology of learning, that blue component. That's kind of all that needs to be optimized in order to work on like really what I would consider the executive functioning. So processing skills, auditory memory, following directions. Can they do multi-step directions, visualization, phonemic awareness, and attention and focus. And I think it's important to note that there's probably a lot more in that section that happens, but this is like the most predominant functioning that we're looking at. So if a kiddo can't sit still in their chair, is it postural strengthening? Is it weakness? Is it spinal galant reflex? It comes down to a lot. A lot of factors, and it's not just tell them to sit in the chair. It's really hard. And all of our referrals primarily come within the two top sections of the pyramid: issues with math, writing, reading, issues with behavior, self-control, and social skills. And honestly, it's so complex and so in depth that we can't start there. And there are therapists that do. There's certain kids that I start at the top with, but that's to get them regulated. So my really smart middle school ADHD kiddos, I can't come in and say, hey, let's go to the gym, because they'll spiral arousal wise. They'll go through the roof. And then I'm spending the rest of the session trying to get them regulated, where they just came out of school. Let's go get a snack. And then we'll play like a strategy game at the table for like 10 minutes. Then we can transition to the gym and we can work on the foundational skills.
Got it.
So it's a lot.
It's so good though. It's so good. I was just looking at OT goals that I have for my young kiddo, and the goal is to write, this was from years ago, but it was write the letters A to Z 80% of the time. And 4 out of 5 opportunities. The goal sucked anyway.
Yes.
But I'm looking at this goal going, okay, but there's so much below that needs to happen before we could have even attempted that with him.
And that's the tricky part. I'm contracted into a charter school here in New Mexico, and I write goals like that.
Yeah.
But you have to know what I'm doing to get them ready for that, or what modalities am I going to use to get that child to get there. But I include it just because of my experience and skill level.
Right. And then we wonder why kids that are neurodivergent are, quote, failing out of school or end up being homeschooled because
the system's broken.
For whatever reason, the system is broken.
And you keep the circle peg in a square hole.
Correct.
And in this charter school I'm at, I've never heard of it until I came out here. Have you guys heard of the Waldorf school philosophy?
We have Waldorfs here in the Seattle area.
Yeah.
So it's that, but it's a charter school. So it's Waldorf premises and framework, but also having to meet the state funding goals.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And just because we have holes in these pyramids, so I think of myself personally, and I share this with my clients, I have holes all over these foundational things. I have just learned how to work with it, and I tend to have to work a lot harder than my peers to get to the same end goal. In elementary, middle school, and high school, I never passed a standardized test, ever. My SAT scores tank. The only time I ever passed exams are my board exams, and I passed them by the slimmest margin because I just have to work harder. I have to read something 3 times before I have a working memory of what I read. But I'm a successful.
Well, I was going to say
an OT.
And there you have it.
There you have it.
Wow, this was so good, Missy. There's just so much. There's so much involved.
For hours.
I know. We have to have you back because I feel like parents need to know more about primitive reflexes. They need to know just more about the sensory piece. There's just so much.
Absolutely.
But this was a good start.
Well, and so can I ask one quick question? Where do most of your referrals come from? Is it from like pediatricians? Because how much do they even know about primitive reflexes? Because I feel like this is, I mean, even being, you know, a PT for as long as I have been, I mean, primitive reflexes is just something that I feel has become more mainstream, you know, in recent
it
years.
has been a hot topic in our profession. Like for 5 years, it was like taboo.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's come back. So primarily all our referrals come from word of mouth. We have never marketed for our clinic in Connecticut. When we first opened the clinic, we this is how long ago we did a fax marketing to all the pediatricians and neurologists and psychologists in the area, and then it becomes word of mouth. So most of our referrals will say, hey, my friend called. My friend was telling me this weekend about this. And then we say, okay, you have to go to your pediatrician. So for outpatient clinics, you have to get a referral from your pediatrician to start the process. And so often, I don't care what the referral is, what it says for. No matter who comes in my clinic, I start at the same place with everybody.
Right. It makes sense. Yeah. It makes sense. But I mean, they're the gatekeepers, right? From like being from babies all the way up into adolescence. And I had a pediatrician, and, you know, my daughter who has the ADHD diagnosis, she was not my crawler. She was my butt scooter.
Yep.
And of course, even being a PT, I was crawling's important. I didn't do pediatrics. I did geriatrics, but I'm like, this doesn't seem right. But you know, again, I'm a mom to twins. I'm sleep deprived.
Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
a new mom. Okay, I'm going to go with what my doctor is saying. My child is moving. She is transitioning from one place to another. And now, guess what we're doing at age 12 and 13? We're back on the ground crawling. And I tell that to all new moms. I am like, you make sure that baby crawls. And if not, again, there's therapy, because it is so essential. And I do it with them, and it's so fascinating. I feel different after completing that task.
Absolutely.
My brain feels different.
I often tell parents, if your pediatrician will say, oh, let's wait and see. To me, that's a red flag. You know, okay.
On so many levels.
Everything.
I still
Same
have
with the schools. If the schools say that to you too, let's wait and see. Red flag.
Red flag. Yeah. My son is 20, and I tell parents, leave the guilt at the door. So when my son was younger, he was a very energy sucking child. And if he wasn't in my sight for 10 seconds, he was losing his marbles. And then he was a delayed talker. So when I got a referral for early intervention, and the speech therapist comes and she says to me, well, you're an OT. I said, oh, no. I'm a mom right now. And I'm a mom who's worried about her kid. Don't talk to me like I had the knowledge. I was still a newbie back then. I was 30.
And it's different. You can't see your child the same. You just can't see it like that. There's no way.
And if a parent if you take your child to somebody that's saying, oh, you should have done this and you should have done this, and how come you're not carrying through the home exercise program? Like, to me, that's a red flag. Like, I won't recommend something to a parent and assume that they're going to get it done. I wanted to do the TheraBrushing with my son on a week's vacation. I did it once in the morning. And I'm like, oh, I should brush you right now. And I'm like, I don't want to. I just want to sit here. So you got to leave the guilt. We all do the best we can in the moment. And I can do a hell of a lot more with other people's kids than my own.
Yeah.
I can't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your job is to be mom. Yeah. That's it. And I love that permission to leave the guilt at the door.
You have
because
to.
we all beat ourselves up over the things we should have done, didn't do. And at the end of the day, there's always tomorrow. And look, I'm 50 years old and I'm going to be working on my vestibular system soon. Like after this call, I'm going to talk to you. We're going to work on this.
I worked on mine. There's something that we do called twirlies. And your goal is to do 10 twirlies in a row. And you should stop being dizzy within 5 seconds of doing 10 twirlies. When I started, I couldn't do 10. I can now do 10, but I'm at like 17 seconds to stop being dizzy.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay. I'm going to try that later.
Wow.
Oh, it's not great. It's really not great.
Oh my gosh. So, Missy, if anybody wants to get in touch with you for just, again, like questions, if they are in the New Mexico area and want to get a hold of you, how can they find you?
So, my business is called Building Blocks Pediatric Therapies. Our phone number to the office is 505-531-7187. And then this is a horrible email. We really should have thought this through, but it's called info@B as in boy, B as in boy, P as in Peter, T as in Tom, S as in Santa, F as in Faye. So info@bbptsf.com.
Okay.
Now, as a speech therapist, those are all the worst letters to put in an email. Every time.
You did such a great job, though, explaining that. Like, that was very
You know
articulate.
how many times I do that in
A
a day?
plus. And we'll put it in the show notes so people
we'll
don't have
put
to
it
write
in the
down.
show
Yeah.
notes. Exactly.
And then Missy, and also if you have any other resources or information that people might want to access, could you give us that so we can put it in the show notes as well?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And like even like that therapeutic listening program that you were talking
Yeah,
about.
the music resources.
The music
We'll
resource
put those
for
in
the
the show notes.
Yeah,
one I like,
that'd
not
be
the
great.
others.
Yes.
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 Please.
Okay. And then I can add some books in there. So if you want to learn more about sensory, there's a Out of Sync Child, and I'll give that to you guys, is the Bible of sensory processing for parents because it's not
Great.
has no jargon. It's just wonderful.
Excellent. Good stuff.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, thank you.
For being here. This was wonderful.
Well, as always, Missy, thank you for joining us. We will definitely have you back on again. I mean, as we saw from that pyramid, there's a million things that we can really do deep dives in for parents, educators, other therapists, pediatricians. The more we know, the more we can do better with, right?
Absolutely.
That's really what it's about. So again, thank you. Thank you to our listeners. And as always, please stay curious. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye. The information shared on this podcast is for informational purposes only and is based on the opinions and experience of Lori, Dorothy, and their guests. The content should not be used as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or a treatment. Always seek the advice of your healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you heard on this podcast.